And we're back.
Here we go.
How's it going, everybody? This is another edition of Shoot the Shetty. Hope you've been enjoying the other talks we've been having. We talked about such things as, talked about Saturday Night Live, Howard Stern, the Avengers movies, and we just talked about the X-Men movies. So, with all these things, I think one of the cool things is that we have so many different avenues to explore about how we get all this entertainment from. I mean, we have, podcasts like this. We have streaming, we just have all these avenues for entertainment. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're talking about the future of entertainment and how we get it.
I think.
Does that sound about right, or just make that up?
The future of how we get entertainment. I think we're going to be enslaved by robots. I think that's the future.
Yes, which if you count your phone
as
a
robot,
yeah.
That's exactly it. We're enslaved already.
I mean, just on your phone, you can watch movies, television, stream music, listen to podcasts, read books. I mean, that's it.
Dude,
we're done.
So I was doing this cartoon thing. Like, I think you saw this a while back, my brother. And I do like these comics, stills like Gary Larson. And one of the comics was like iPhone 3000 or something like in the future. And it's like a giant iPhone. It's like destroying the city. That's how evolved it became. Right. But I'm already a slave to everything.
Yeah, and where you are right now, actually, Tarun is broadcasting from a casino in California. There's actually like this giant robot that roams the hallways.
Yes, before being at a casino, and there's this robot it's weird, like, I don't even know what the hell it does. It just like roams around, and I don't know what it does, honestly.
So that's the future of entertainment right there. That robot is just gonna roam around the streets, and he'll give you movies and entertainment and maybe project holograms.
Good. I'm excited for that future.
What do you think about holograms? Did you ever get any entertainment from that?
Jen and the Holograms, that cartoon show from the 80s.
Yes, that was a huge influence on the future.
I mean, honestly, wait, you just saw a concert, right? That was hologram based, or no?
It wasn't. I'll get to that in a bit, but you remember they had that video. They had that video game with holograms in the early 90s.
No, what was it called?
Remember that cowboy game?
There's a cowboy game with a hologram. Oh, you know what? I remember it's coming back to me. No, I don't. It was on.
Yeah, you do, dude. We went to that arcade all the time in Salem, New Hampshire, and they had that. It was like this cowboy who was sent back in time.
Now, I do remember this vaguely. I do remember some hologram game that's kind of cool. For some reason, I don't remember it. I gotta YouTube it when I'm done.
Well, we've talked about it before, but
what happened with that game?
So this game. What happened with it?
Make no movie franchise.
I'm surprised it hasn't been. I'm sure in a couple of years it will be. I mean, time traveling cowboy. How good?
Oh, I do remember this. It was with actors, real actors, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But it wasn't on a screen. They were hologram images, and you controlled their actions through the joystick. But I mean, it's crazy. That came out in the early 90s, and they kind of stopped with that technology. I don't know. I guess people didn't like it, or they just couldn't perfect it, or maybe people forgot about it.
Well,
I have no idea.
The problem with that game was, I remember now, that game was just like, you just kind of watch it and you hit the joystick like once, and you watch it for another 10 minutes. It really wasn't that immersive.
Right. Exactly. So, but I mean, here we are 30 years later. You would think that they would improve on that design, but
dude, all these computer games, I mean, come on. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous how interactive and immersive these games are. You're in the world of it. I can't even. I don't even play video games anymore because it's like your life.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I got to try some VR games when your brother got that headset, and it wasn't completely immersive, but I mean, it was pretty cool to be in because there was actually a jump scare, which actually scared me.
What
So
is a jump scare?
that was pretty cool. When something jumps out,
That's funny.
like
Like Lawnmower Man,
yeah.
the movie.
That's a good reference. Yeah, Lawnmower Man was supposed to be the future of
That is
entertainment.
the future.
that was that was the VR. Yeah, you're supposed to have put the helmets on and have virtual sex. I'm still waiting for that.
It's not too late.
Um, I'll do it right now. No. Uh, yeah, so there was a lot of innovation actually, or speculation in the 90s about what the future of entertainment would be. But I think a lot of that got put on the back burner just because we have streaming, high
Wait, we're
speed
getting this.
streaming.
VR stuff is still like being pushed like crazy, dude. All of these VR companies are coming up and funding.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think the next 5 years, it'll it might take over again. I still remember. I'm getting this another flashback from the childhood teenage years. We went to this expo where it was a virtual reality expo, and you would put on the helmet
I
and
was there.
and you would yeah, we all went. It was in Boston, and
This is how pointless childhoods are. You don't remember anything.
yeah, all that money your parents spent
Yeah.
to keep you entertained was worth nothing. Uh, yeah, so that's another example of how uh, early VR was being pushed, and it got kind of uh, forgotten about. But I think I remember. But again, a couple of years ago, I remember hologram television that was being pushed as the next big thing for television. But they were too expensive, and people were not buying it. People wanted high def
Hologram
instead. So
television.
again,
It's
yeah, like
it's it's like one
instead of
guy from the Cowboy game. It's the only show on.
no, I mean they were marketing it for sports
Okay.
events. So you would watch the game, but it'd be like the game is played right in front of you.
Dude, you know what they're doing right now?
Instead of
Doing
on a
right now in
screen.
LA, which is so stupid. Like they'll have like these unpaid comedy shows called VR comedy shows, and you go down, and you perform, and like there's no audience. You perform, and then the audience is wearing headsets or something, and they stream it on VR. So the audience watches you through their headset.
Wait, where's the audience?
They're all over the place. But they're wearing their VR helmets. It's so stupid. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, no, I mean, that's a different way of broadcasting and streaming entertainment. I mean, yeah, like so I could be watching a comic in LA while I'm in Boston.
Yeah, essentially. Or maybe there's like a small audience. They get like maybe 15, 20 people, and then they stream it VR wise.
Right. And I always thought that'd be kind of cool for music concerts, where let's say there's a band you want to see in Germany, and you're in America, but you put on this VR helmet, and maybe they got like this 360-degree camera, and it's like you're there. It's like you're listening. It's like you're at the concert, except you're still in your bed.
Or you can bring your bed to the concert and just.
Yeah, right. It's another
Remember
option.
the Michael Jackson VR thing? Was it the Grammys? Forget. They had like a Michael Jackson. He died, obviously, and they had a VR hologram of Michael Jackson. They're like, "Wow, this is amazing! It's almost like he's real." Remember that?
They
Yeah,
did that?
dude. Michael Jackson hologram at one of these big award shows after he died, and it was like a full-on Michael Jackson performance, and he wasn't even there, and like backup dancers, like real backup dancers in front of it, to make it seem like he was performing.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah, I just looked it up. Yeah.
And then at the end, the hologram molest kids. It's just like Michael Jackson. He was
Uh,
hologram kids. Thank you. Thank
yep.
you. I'll be here all
That's
week.
the future of holograms. At least they can't really touch you.
Uh, wait. Let's just kill this.
No,
Oh, wait,
but
there's also like,
so
isn't there like touch hologram stuff where touch VR stuff where like it shocks you and stuff like that? Isn't there some kind of
uh
technology like that? I forget.
maybe that kind of goes back to the old Hollywood theaters where there'd be, like in the 50s, it'd be a movie about some guy who shoots electricity, and they would wire the seats so you could feel
All
electricity.
right.
So we're I guess everything that goes around comes around. We might be heading back to that form of entertainment again, where you could feel that. Even Netflix, they had the choose your own adventure, which is kind of a new option for
Right.
people.
I remember that. That was a pretty cool show. And what was the name of that show? I forget.
The
Right.
Bandersnatch. So wait, so you watched it? Did you go through all the options?
No, I just got. I think I watched like 2 hours of it, but
Yeah, and I think there's like 4 hours of content, which is pretty crazy.
yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. But I mean, it was good. I mean, my biggest problem now with entertainment is there's so much of it where I'm just like, I don't even seriously. I got a TV in my apartment. I haven't put it on in like a month. I just watch stuff on my phone. That's really all I do now.
Uh-huh.
And I'll just, flip through my phone like videos but like there's so much content and good stuff that it's overwhelming.
That's true. It's there's more and more streaming channels being added. You mentioned who, the Jeffrey Katzenberg, right? He's got a new streaming
Yeah,
channel.
it's called Quibi, Quibi. So he's been doing this for a while. Some kind of streaming thing, TV content. But he's got a lot of money behind it, and he's got some big guys. He's recruited some big guys to do it. All these guys, I worked in entertainment, the business side of it, and I'll tell you the one thing I saw was these guys like Verizon Go 90, ABC Digital, CBS All Access. They all have like their digital platforms, in addition to their normal network traditional stuff. And most of them went out of business. It's crazy, like CISO, Verizon Go 90, all this stuff. They all they don't know. They just kind of jump on the bandwagon and they put all this money into it, and they can't monetize it, and then they they just close the doors and everyone gets laid off. Like,
Yeah, this is kind of like the dot com boom era all over again, where everyone was just trying to put up a website that sold something, or got on the information highway, as it was called, and they just didn't know what to do. They just kind of threw money at
yeah,
everything.
I mean, they're still trying that, I think, and I think that's why. A lot of the future, I mean, a lot of right now entertainment, you have these influencers, doing videos on Instagram. Like, I mean, I know like it doesn't appeal to us, but there's a whole generation of millennials and stuff. Like, how do they get entertainment? Like, those are the consumers for brands. So, it's just changing.
Yeah, and what's going to be you know kind of funny to watch is how these YouTube stars will move ahead, because you're talking about the kids, and I've got like young nephews. They watch these YouTube stars I've never heard of, never even hear their name being spoken, but they've got like 5 million, 10 million people subscribed to their channels, and you're just like, so how do they move forward? Will these kids be watching YouTube for the next 30 years, or will they switch to television or movies, or I don't know.
So, do you watch stuff on? I mean, how do you watch your? I guess porn,
Yeah,
whatever.
I've got
Okay,
an Amazon.
nothing.
What? I've got my Amazon stick, so it's like all that content. I've got the Netflix, I've got Hulu, HBO, all consolidated. So yeah, even then, it's like I only watch reruns of The Office and Seinfeld when there's like thousands of hours of other things I haven't seen.
Dude, I was watching The
But
Jeffersons a month ago. Binge watching The Jeffersons, that TV show from the
well,
70s,
that's
80s.
yeah, that's I mean that's kind of a cool thing now where if you're if you wanted to watch a show from the 80s or 70s, it's right there. You know, it's we can access any show now in the past 50 years. You know, I still see people talk about Cheers. They're like, I just found out about Cheers. Oh my god, this is one of the greatest sitcoms. Like, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I think is it Disney that's creating a streaming service, which is going to be, and they're going to take out all their content off all this free stuff. So it might make it more complex now. You know,
Well, I think what's happening is, you know, Netflix used to license everything, so they had a lot of Disney content. Now that's going to go back to Disney, and Netflix is just going to make their own shows instead of licensing. Um,
I think Netflix has been the game changer.
it's insane because there'll be movies I've like people talk about I've never even heard of, but they're all come from Netflix. And then I think when you just scroll through their menu, there are movies that I don't know. It kind of feels like to me that it's become the bargain bin,
Dude. Their
VHS.
movies aren't even that good. Sometimes you've been in Florida with me. We'll go through the Netflix catalog, and it's like these are like movies that came out like 5 years ago, or like they're just like the shit movies that came out last year, you know. And we always like end up like ordering a recent movie on Apple.
Right, right, yeah. I mean, right now I think they're doing really good on the TV shows. Their movies, not so much. Usually it's like B movies, but with now the way things are packaged, it'd be like a big star, but but the movie would just suck.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, we were talking about the
But
guy Max Landis, and he wrote that movie Bright. It was a big movie on Netflix.
right, right. It got Will Smith in it, and it was this big fantasy epic set in modern times. And that's like we don't really know how well it did because Netflix didn't release the numbers, but the fact that they never made a sequel, I think, kind of speaks to that.
Yeah, dude. They said it made 90 million or something like that, but then they've never made a sequel. Come on, something's off there.
Right, right. Yeah,
But
exactly. When Hollywood wants something to get made, it gets made.
by the way, and I think a lot of stars are realizing this because there's not a podcast where I don't drop an Adam Sandler, and that guy was making movies for the studios, and he said, "No, I'm gonna make movies for Netflix," and he just jumped from Sony to Netflix.
Right, right. And it's kind of interesting what happened with his latest movie on Netflix. Um, so it was actually in development since 2013, and it was supposed to be a studio film. And something happened. A lot of people dropped out, and I guess Sandler just found the script, and he just liked the idea of him and another co-star uh, being Jennifer Aniston, and yeah, they just kind of used Netflix money to go on vacation in Italy, which is
Right.
where the movie's based.
We're not getting into Adam Sandler, but I mean, he's been doing that for years. Come on.
Right, right. But yeah, yeah. So Netflix is. I think you never know. 5 years from now, maybe the big Hollywood blockbusters are going to be on Netflix instead of theaters. Actually, let's talk about comedy and streaming. I feel like a lot more comedies now are it's easier to be streamed rather than be released in theaters.
Dude, I mean, sorry to keep saying dude, but all the comedians think that this Netflix thing is kind of like ruined comedy. Because back in the day, in like the 90s, like the big deal was getting the HBO special, and they only gave out like, one or two every 6 months. So it was a big deal for like comedians. Now it's like everyone has a Netflix special, everyone has an Amazon special, everyone has this, this, this. It's like it's almost saturated it to the point where, you know, there's so much comedy now online where it's so and the thing about Netflix, because they're so global, they're giving like specials out to like these comedians like internationally because they want the international audience. And these comics aren't even that good. There's like new comedians who just like, you know, live in Pakistan or whatever. You know?
We don't want any Pakistan comics.
Whatever,
You're
Indian
right.
comics.
You're
I mean, I'm just saying Pakistan as an example. Or Chinese comics, but they speak that language, and if you watch it, you're like, "What the heck is this?" But it appeals to an audience, but it's just kind of diluted the comedy scene. In fact, there was a comedian out of New York. I can't remember his name, and he was a dude. I wish I knew his forgot his name. He's kind of big right now, and he built his following on social media. And he goes, I realized people weren't watching these hour specials. You see all these hour specials, but nobody's watching. Like, when was the last time you ever sat through an hour special? So he made this 15-minute special, 15, and it got downloaded so many times off his, like, his social media that he claims that Netflix copied that because Netflix then started making 15-minute specials, 1 5. And so this short form content, you know, is now being pushed to comedians. So it's just like a whole mess of you know, content, you know, people, new comedians getting specials, and comics don't know what to do. Like, I talk to them every day and they're just confused.
right. Yeah. It's funny. I just watched this old movie from 1987 with Tom Hanks, Sally Field, called Punchline,
Oh yeah,
and it's
dude.
about the stand up. Yeah, it's about the stand up scene in New York at that time, and it's kind of weird how things kind of stayed the same. You know, the end of the movie is all the comics have to compete, uh, but with these judges judging them for like a TV special, and that's not too far off from where we are now with like the America's Got Talent and all that, and yeah, it's like the more things change, the more they stay the same, I guess. But you're right. I think nowadays, though, all of the rest of the comics would have gotten a Netflix deal, and no matter how good they are or how
Well,
bad they are.
it's still really hard. You have to have a good following to get a special, but I'm just saying they're more lenient giving out these specials to comedians versus, you know, two a year to HBO. Oh, you know, the young comedian specials on HBO, that was a big deal. Like Rob Schneider, David Spade, they all got discovered off that. Not so much now. You have a show with comedians, and it's like, who is this person? That's why it's more important to build your brand as a comic / entertainer. So you don't need these people.
Right, right. Yeah, and you know, you don't want them pushing you. You just want to push yourself, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Do you ever think? I mean, we've talked about comic book movies. Do you think that comic books will ever like go away? People will be like, sick of. Because you told me that you can find any comic book online, right?
Yeah, yeah. You mean to read?
Yeah. Like,
Right.
you think like traditional comic books will ever go away? Just people will be like, I'm sick of reading, and you know, because that's what was fun for us as kids.
Yeah, no, I think the it's the synergy of the comic books and the TV shows and movies. Um, you know, I think like my young nephews, they don't read comic books, but if I gave them like a Spider-Man comic, hopefully, you know, they'll be like, "Oh, Spider-Man from the movies. Oh, he's got a comic book now. Oh, let me read the comic books." And then like he you read the comic books from like 20 years ago or something.
Do they know it's based on a
But yeah,
comic book? Your nephews?
yeah, yeah, I think so. But even then, they don't have the same excitement. Yeah, this is how bad it is. I have more excitement for the movies than they do because they're just kind of like, oh yeah, this is the new movie that's out. But I'm like, oh my god, they took Thor and you know brought in all these characters and Thanos is there. It's like, oh my god.
Well, do you think it's an age thing? Because, okay, like video games, right? Like, my younger nephew, who's like almost 20 now, will still watch. He'll still watch people play video games. Like, that's a huge thing,
Oh
like
really?
an esports thing. And I can't get into this. I'm like, I don't understand that. Why? How can you watch someone play a video game? But like, that's a huge form of
Well,
entertainment.
to be fair, we also watched people play video games, but we were actually in the room.
That's what we were waiting to play.
You know, yeah, because we were waiting to play.
I wasn't
Right,
like
you're right.
subscribed to it.
I know. I don't know. Same thing with podcasts. Maybe it's like, why are you listening to
Why are you
somebody?
listening to us? No,
Yeah,
but I
it's
get
like,
that. I do get that because you get in their world, and you have a point of view, a perspective, and it's funny because in LA, I have so many people who message me or ask me questions because they want to get into comedy, and I realize they're so locked into like Joe Rogan and Bill Burr and stuff because those guys are very authentic, and people just hate their lives. And there's something about podcasts which really hits people on a visceral level where they just like, man, this is finally something has meaning, versus the everyday just shallowness of life. They have to go through the drudgery. We feel like fake conversations and all that bullshit. So there's something about podcasts where there's like no rules or limits. You can say whatever you want that people identify with.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, with those type of podcasts like Mark Maron and Joe Rogan, even Howard Stern, the long form interviews. Is that what you're talking about? Where like people just they talk really about
everything.
their
Yeah,
lives.
love, marriage, money, career, fear.
Right,
I think
right.
fear is a huge
Do
thing,
you
which is why entertainment is there because people just want to escape, right? From their
right,
shitty
right.
lives.
So actually, I'm not a huge. I mean, I just don't have the time to watch like Joe Rogan, right? But like, is the audio more popular, or people like to watch the video more?
Well, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know, but I know I do watch the videos here and there, but I don't watch the 4-hour podcast. I'll watch like 10 minutes of it at a time, if that.
Just like the
Yeah,
highlights.
and those clips get huge numbers. In fact, there's a guy there. His name's Brendan Schaub, and he's like an MMA fighter. And I just saw him do stand up. Like I was at the Improv, and he did stand up, and he's like a new stand up. He's like I mean, look, I'm just being objective about this. He was where he was supposed to be as a stand-up. It's like a guy, it was a whatever act, but people enjoyed it. People were like just happy to see him. Like it's almost like being a zoo attraction. And he got through a set. People were happy, and it was like, wow, this is what entertainment is. You don't even need to like craft your act the road in casinos or whatever. You can just have a podcast, and all of a sudden you've got millions of fans. And
Yeah, that's kind of like the future of entertainment, where there used to be guardians or gatekeepers who would say, okay,
gatekeepers.
The gatekeeper, unless you paid your dues and uh, you've done this long enough, then that's when you get noticed. But now it's like with all this streaming, you people can get noticed.
Yeah.
Can get noticed right away. I mean, I guess that guy you just mentioned, he used his social media to get an audience, right?
Well, use Joe Rogan's social media. Sure. And by the way, Joe Rogan has anointed a few other comedians, and they also have a following because of his podcast. It has such a huge following. Who would have thought this guy from News Radio,
But I mean, he was actually funny in News Radio. He was great.
No,
Like,
he's good on that podcast. The Joe Rogan podcast is good. Like he's very.
But even back in the '90s, he was a stand-up, wasn't he?
Yeah, honestly, his stand-up, I mean, his stand-up's whatever to me, but like just the way he speaks and the way he interacts, because I'll watch his podcast on YouTube, and people will be like confrontational or make some points, and he's really zen about it. He'll like just listen to their points and speak very clearly and intelligently. So he's got a real talent for that. When he's very empathetic, and you feel like he's like a normal dude, just having a conversation. So I think he's really good at what he does.
Right. And do you see any changes in the podcast? Like how I don't know. Any predictions?
Well, everyone has a podcast. I swear to God, like everyone's. But I used to be against it. In fact, even my friend was like, "Dude, you got to start." I was like, and I was like, "It's something I really want to talk about." And then I was like, you know what? I like talking. I talk to you anyways every day. So I was like, let's just talk about whatever the hell we talk about. And I think there's room for everybody. If you have something interesting you want to talk about, in fact, that's my one advice. I tell people, I try not to give advice, but when they press me, I'm like, look, try to make something that's authentic to you. So if it's a podcast, if you're writing, if you're making videos, make sure it's authentic to your voice and something that you're going to like doing, because you'll do it consistently. Otherwise, you'll quit in like a month or two. So I feel like with podcasts, there might be more and more shows, but I think there's always an audience, and you'll find that small audience. Even if you get 1% of America, guess what? You're a multimillionaire. That's a huge, huge base.
Well, I mean, you're not even limited to America. It could be anywhere in the
galaxy.
The galaxy.
Aliens listening to Joe Rogan.
Me, Deep Zop, I like this guy. That's my impression of an alien. No, and I think going forward, this generation who's grown up with this, like, I don't know if they already have. I'm sure they do. Like, you'll have mom podcasts, or even like not elderly, but grandpa podcasts. Grandparents talking about things. I'm sure there'll be a market for that. I think right now, like your parents, I don't think. Does your mom listen?
No, but you know what she'll do? She'll listen. She'll go to these. She's really into interior design, and there are like these interior design channels that are focused for that niche. So, she'll get sucked into that world too. I think you just got to figure out. My dad's really into music. He'll like watch like music channels on YouTube, which is kind of like a podcast. So I feel like if you just create a world and community, and you'll get people who are interested in those areas, but you got to know what you're talking about, because people can sniff out inauthenticity.
Right. Yeah, and so I guess the future is kind of like there'll be something for everybody, but not everybody will like everything. Maybe that's it. I mean, unless you make these big comic book movies, or a big action star, that's the only way people will connect on a large level.
Well, I'll be dead by then.
But let's see what else. I mean, like even death, there's no stopping it. Like you mentioned at the beginning where I saw this concert, it was actually the death of Chris Cornell. He they were replaying a concert from 2013, but in high definition sound and video, and that's just another form of entertainment they're putting out there. And I'm just like, is this the future? Like, will people be watching a concert of a concert at a concert?
I mean, I can't even imagine that. But hey, you know what? We're living it. We're doing it. And I think we've said it all, Shawn.
Said it all.
Thanks so much for listening. I'm going to plug my book real quick. Check it out. If you like comedy, it's called Laughing in Hell. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Nobles. You can find it online. And yeah, if you like this podcast, please shoot us some questions. We'll be happy to review it and answer and make fun of you.
All right, everybody. I hope everybody stays inside and streams and doesn't enjoy going outside at all.
Cool. All right. See you, man. Bye.
All right.